Linda. Good. Okay, so Parshat Emor, ברוכה הבאה.
תודה רבה, ברוכים הנמצאים. ויאמר אשר אל משה, אמור אל הכהנים בני אהרון, ואמרת עליהם, לנפש לא יטמא בעמיו. כי אם לשארו הקרוב אליו, לאמו ולאביו, ולבנו ולביתו ולאחיו.
Good. Chai Rivka, I want to take 1 and 2 for us, please.
Okay, Hashem said to Moses, say to the kohanim, the sons of Aaron, and tell them, each of you shall not contaminate you himself to a dead person among his people, except for the relative who is closest to him, to his mother and to his father, to his son and daughter, and to his brother and to his virgin sister.
Okay, we'll stop there. Okay, so
enough.
now, the contaminate I don't like. Right? The English choice of the term contaminate, right, for tum'ah, right, I'm not overly comfortable with that. I say to, I guess a little more wordy, it's ritually impure. Okay? That's what tum'ah is. It's not a contamination, it's not the cooties, right? But it is this ritual impurity. Now, a mate, a person who has deceased, a body, is considered Avi Avot HaTumah, it's called. It's considered one of the highest degree. Why?
I didn't listen to what you said because
a dead person coming in contact with that body. Now, it's a great mitzvah, right? Tending to a burial, we call that chesed shel emet. That is the true chesed, as I say at every funeral that I do, because whenever we do a kindness, there's always a certain thought of reciprocity. Right? I've done you a favor. In the back of my mind, maybe it's 99%, maybe it's 1%, but it's there. That there is a give and take in this world. If I've gone out of my way for you, so then, right, you owe me. Right? As much as we don't want to admit to it, that's what we do think along those lines. Again, to whatever degree it is. Chesed shel emet, true kindness, is that which we do for a person who has passed away, right? The escorting, helping with the burial, right? Because there is no give and take. There is no reciprocity. And there's something called a mate mitzvah. Now we're going to see a kohen has restrictions, that he can't be involved in burials, right? Except for immediate family. The kohen gadol, the high priest, he cannot even do that. Not for his mother, not for his father, not for his son, not daughter, not at all, except for something called a mate mitzvah. A mate mitzvah is a body that there's no one to tend to the burial. And there we say, even if he is a kohen gadol, who has the most restrictions, even if he's a Kohen Gadol who also is a Nazir is a Nazirite, a person who takes upon himself an oath of being a Nazir, which gives added restrictions. And one of the added restrictions is not to come in contact with the dead. So if he's a Kohen Gadol, and he's a Nazir, and he's on his way to bringing his Korban Pesach, his Pesach sacrifice, which he will not be able to bring if he becomes Tamei, right? If he comes in contact. And he encounters what's called a mate mitzvah.
What is mate? What do you mean?
A mate is dead.
Mate is dead.
Dead. A mate mitzvah.
How do you spell it?
Mem taf.
Oh,
It's in Hebrew.
Okay, that was the
No,
stumbling block.
not M-A-T-E.
That was a stumbling block.
Okay. Now we're in favor of marriage. Right? The Kohen Gadol has to be married.
Okay. Because
We're all in-
that one
we're-
word took me off.
No. We're all in favor of one finding one's mate and being married, right? And there's no correlation, I like to say, between the Hebrew and the English in this case. Okay.
So why is it mate?
Okay. Right. So if one encounters a mate mitzvah, right, a dead body that there is no one to tend to the burial, everyone, a Kohen Gadol, Nazir, going to the Korban Pesach, the Pesach sacrifice, must tend to the burial. So there is a tremendous degree of kavod hamet, of honor to the dead, which must be given to a tremendous degree, because we view the, well, so why then is there this tum'ah, this ritual impurity? Why is a mate something that causes this impurity? And the kohanim, the spiritual leaders of our people, must distance themselves from it. What is the issue with mate?
The soul is not there, sort of.
Okay.
It's not.
And the body is rotting.
The soul is not there and the body starts to decay. Therefore what? Why is that something that a Kohen must stay away from? Why is that something which causes tum'ah? Yes?
Is it because we're no longer a part of God then? Or like Hashem breathes His soul into us while we're alive, but after that's taken away and we've returned, then our body no longer has that kedusha and holiness?
Okay.
But on the other hand, the body up, the soul goes up to I don't know where, but and it does keep its holiness. It's only the body. So
Okay.
That's all that's
So we're going to pursue, I think, we'll call it 3 different approaches. Okay? What Cheryl is saying is, I think, very true. Right? The body was a vessel that housed the neshama, the soul. And while the soul was in the body, it partnered. Right? You know, with all the good spiritual aspirations, we need the body to partner in that. Right? Everybody wanted to come to a class this morning. Right? But the body said, I'm kind of tired. I would love to sleep in this morning. Nevertheless, the body, together with that neshama, decided to make the trip and come to the class. There's a partnership. Once the neshama leaves, and that gives the body tremendous potential to change itself, change those around us, change the world. Once that neshama, once that soul leaves, it has lost its ability, its potential for kedusha, for holiness. And therefore, what results is tum'ah, right? Is impurity. That's when a person is asleep. We wake in the morning, we have our ritual washing of our hands, because there is a certain degree of tum'ah that seeps in when we are asleep. Why is that? Because sleep, we say, is like 1/60th of death, meaning that we are incapacitated. We have an inability, good morning, Leah. We have an inability to produce, to do. Right? And whenever there is potential that is then removed, that results in tum'ah, in impurity. Okay, and that is why, for example, when a woman has her period, there is ritual impurity. Why is that? Right? Because it's unfulfilled potential. The body was preparing for life, and that was not met, and the body is now ridding itself of that preparation that it had for the fertilization of an egg, and therefore that's potential that's no longer there. So on a certain level, 100%, that is very, very true what you're saying, Cheryl, that the body had this incredible potential. It no longer has that potential, can no longer serve in that role, right? Which also speaks of, if we firmly believe in the world to come and going to God's embrace after we leave this world, so why do we have this tremendous drive for life?
Because that's why would a tremendous.
Meaning, let's go to the next stage. Right? The next world is so much greater than this world, and all the confusion and all the difficulties and all the travails, but we want to live. Why do we want to live?
Because in
Because
the
we
next
have a
world
chance
we cannot do mitzvahs and
Right.
cannot,
Okay.
We can accomplish there what
We can't accomplish
have to
there.
accomplish.
Right? In other words, none of us feel that we are ready to present ourselves before God and say, this is my work, this is what I've done. Right? So we always want more time to partner. Right? Once that comes to an end and that potential leaves and the neshama leaves, then there is this tum'ah. That's one approach. Yes.
No, the
Rachel
question-
and then Dov.
Who said that 1/60th? How does it calculate it?
Oh, very
Are there
interesting.
60 levels of
Yes.
the soul?
Oh, okay.
Only one of them leaves?
No. Actually, we say there are there are lots of different.
7.
Yeah. 1/60th is, well, when it comes to kashrut, keeping kosher,
Also 1/60th.
right? So there, the classic. You've got a nice
Drop of-
chicken soup up on the fire, right? And some milk spills, right? This is where you might cry over spilled milk. Some milk spills into your chicken soup, right? So what's the halacha?
If it's 1/60th, it's
Okay, if it's less than 1/60th chicken soup, right, one to the other, right, then it is batel, it is negated, right? More than 1/60th, right, then it retains its flavor. It did give notain tam, it did give some flavor. So what do we see? We see 1/60th is that gray area where you might sense it, you might not sense it. We say Shabbos is 1/60th of Olam Haba, of the world to come, which means we might sense it, we might not sense it. Depends what type of Shabbos we make, right? If we'll sense it or not, right? So sleep is 1/60th of death. It's that gray area. Do we sense it? Do we not sense it?
How did they come up with this 60?
So what I'm saying is, I think 1/60th is a term that we use for that gray area where one might sense what it is, or one might taste it, or not taste it.
Kind of
Right.
allegoric, not.
Yeah, I think in this
Precise,
case,
not
yes.
measurement.
I think in this case, yes. Yes, Dov.
Forces from the other side, evil, whatever you want to call it,
Forces?
forces from the other side are always trying to get to us. And when we're asleep, that's one of the reasons I guess we wash, because there's something coming from there. But when there's death, there's nothing preventing them at all.
Okay, that's getting a little too Kabbalistic for me. But maybe. I don't know. Yeah.
So since you said that, once the soul passes, and I don't know, I guess I'm thinking too far, but so all these souls that are now passed, how they come back? Some of them come back.
Sometimes it could happen, yeah.
So I guess where does it cut off the potential of mitzvah,
Okay.
and then you come back and now you're able to
Okay,
do your mitzvah
so we
again?
believe that there is the possibility of what's called Gilgul, which is reincarnation, that a neshama, not a constant loop like some religions believe, but sometimes there is unfinished business, that a person then will be sent back to this world in another, to live again, right, for however long that might be, right? As I sometimes, that's an explanation that is given as possibility when a child dies at a very young age, that soul might have just had a little bit of time that it needed back here in this world before it could return to its place. Yeah, so that's what we view mostly as unfinished business.
So it's just to complete whatever.
Complete the tasks. Yeah.
And our souls are recycled?
I
The
wouldn't
soul
say.
that I have, isn't it recycled? Wasn't it here in a different...
So it's interesting. You say,
Okay.
is the soul that I have recycled? Right? So you're identifying with your body and not with your soul.
What do you mean
When you said, is the soul I have recycled, so who's I? Not your soul.
my soul.
So that's the gray area, right? In other words, if I am my body, then the soul I have is recycled. If I am actually my soul, right, and this is the garment that I have, then I'm not recycled. I'm here, right, wearing a different garment.
Okay, fine. I'm here. Am I here? Not for the first
So
time.
I
I'm
believe
here.
I believe most people who have some knowledge about these things, the Chavetz Chaim wrote that in our generations, right, it is the vast majority of us have been here before, and we're here to try to correct. Let's come back now to this tum'ah. Another approach. I believe Rav Kook writes about this in this manner. Why is it that tum'ah, right, or
That
death
mine's yours.
causes?
Yours. Oh, I'm so sorry.
No problem. Why is it that?
But I shut it off.
Okay. Why is it that death causes this impurity, and specifically the kohanim, right? They must keep themselves away from this, along with what we were starting to say before, to a certain degree. We believe that we are eternal, that we have a soul which is a part of God that is eternal. And there are certain things that we confront that shake us, that jar us, and that create inevitably a certain degree of doubt, of uncertainty that pulls us away from what it is that we believe. And I encounter people and I see the goodness in people, the innate goodness in people, and I feel, wow, life, soul, God, spirituality, wow, it's all around me. And then when we come in contact with a person who has died, it's jarring. And it sure looks like it's all over. It sure looks like the end. And that is something that brings us down to a certain degree. We must do it. It's a mitzvah to do it. It's a chesed shel emet. It's a true kindness to deal with and help. But nevertheless, it takes its toll. It affects us. And the tum'ah is a distancing from who we are, what we believe, the connection that we have. So the kohanim, those who are there as our spiritual leaders, they are not exposed to this shock to the system, to this jolt to our belief system. Now, we know, of course, that's part and parcel of our belief system, that it's not a death, it's not an end, it's a transition. And death, we mentioned before, is called the Gesher HaChayim, the bridge of life. And that where one transitions, one crosses the bridge from this world to the next world. It's fascinating. I was talking to someone who recently lost a family member, and this person shared with me that about 30 days before this family member passed away, this person had a dream. It was a sibling who passed away. This person had a dream that she saw this sibling who passed away 30 days after this dream, and her late mother walking together in a certain way, right? They were wearing darkened clothing, and it shook her. It shook her so that she woke up and she was so distraught, seeing her sister, who was fine at the time, and her late mother walking along together. And I shared with her that there is an Or HaChaim, one of the classic commentators on the Chumash, on the Parsha Vayelech Moshe, and Moshe went. It doesn't say where he went. So the Or HaChaim brings, I believe from the Zohar, that Moshe went while he was still alive. But 30 days before his death, he went. His soul went. The Moshe, the real essence Moshe, went and visited where he would be once he would cross that Gesher HaChaim. And I shared this with this woman who had this dream 30 days before this sibling passed away. So we believe that. We call it the Gesher HaChaim. And we believe it, we believe it, we believe it, we believe it. But nevertheless, it is a shock to the system. And it sure doesn't look like a bridge of life. It looks like it's an end. And that is the tum'ah. Gesher is bridge chaim of life. The bridge of life. Right? And that's a shock to us, to our system. Not that we're surprised, but confronting that hits us. And that's what creates, that's why this is the epitome, the avi avot hatumah, the epitome of tum'ah, of impurity.
Rabbi, is that applicable to the grain?
Yes, that is. There is a lesser degree of tum'ah when a non-Jew dies, because whereas a Jew had 613 mitzvot to accomplish, so the potential for 613 has now left, right? So if there was a potential for greater mitzvot, there's a greater vacuum, a greater lack that results from the neshama, the soul leaving. So a Gentile who has the 7 mitzvot, right? So when that potential leaves, there will also be tum'ah, right? But a lesser degree of tum'ah. Janet?
So why is this? Is the shock related to emotional? I mean, this shock or distancing. I mean, for different people in your life who decease, it seems like it could be uneven how much you feel like there's this removal from Hashem or
yeah, we're
why
saying
why is it not consistent? You know that you have tum'ah, and so I mean, do you see what I'm saying? It doesn't seem like the shock
why are
is the
some
same.
people restricted and not others? Why are those who are restricted to certain relations and not to others? I'm not sure what you're asking.
I'm saying the overall shock for everybody seems to be
So why are kohanim restricted and not
different.
others? So it would seem. I'm sorry.
I think it's more emotional that she's connected.
I'm saying, is it emotional, or is it when different people in your life decease? I find that I feel differently shocked or removed.
Okay.
And
Therefore,
so,
what?
So is there a greater tum'ah, or is there a?
No. There
So the
is
tum'ah is always consistent.
Correct.
So it's an emotional
Correct.
thing going on.
Correct.
Is-
Correct.
Is tum'ah a form of a boundary?
What do you mean?
A boundary, the existence of tum'ah says stop. You're not there yet. It's not like a fence, but it's I don't know. I was thinking it's sort of like a boundary. It makes us stop, and we're not where we were. We're not where we will be, but we have this.
To have this boundary,
boundary
to keep a certain distance. Interesting.
Interesting. Overcome.
Interesting.
Without it, let's say without it, then things would be the same. Without it.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. It creates certain zones.
A zone, right,
Yeah.
like a boundary.
Interesting, interesting. Dove and then.
Oh, I have a different question. My question was, the very final mitzvah that we do when we die to bring people together to do the mitzvah, do we get credit for that?
A person, I'm not sure. I don't know if that's a yeah, not sure. Not sure. Not sure.
So as Roberta is saying that it's like a frontier, like a fence or something, but it's different levels of tum'ah. For example,
Once a person
the
is.
period of the ladies.
I'm sorry.
For example, for nida.
Yes, there are different levels of tum'ah. That's why I said mate, death. Right, that is called that's the greatest level of tum'ah, right? And going to a mikvah does not cleanse that. There's a whole process, right, which we don't have now without the Beit HaMikdash, without the temple. There are different levels, different types of tum'ah, but right, mate, coming back to what Janet said, mate, right, a dead person will cause a certain degree of tum'ah, no matter how connected or disconnected I happen to personally be, right, to that person.
I look at it, I don't know, in a different perspective. When you're facing somebody who died, I think it shocked you. It gives you a shock of a positive,
Yeah.
of a positive way. It shakes you to be a better person,
to utilize life,
to think more,
yeah,
to family, friends,
yeah,
neighbors. I don't know, everything.
Yes.
It shouldn't be a tameh. It should be
Shlomo Melech says,
a shock and a lesson.
Right? King Solomon says, yeah, you're making a beautiful point. Tov lalechet lebeit ha'avel milalechet lebeit ha'mishtan. I'm quoting exactly right. Better to go to a house of mourning than to go to a house of celebration. Right? Kizeh sof kol adam. Right? Because that is the ultimate end of every person, and it's sobering. Right? And again, what I say at funerals that I'm there, that I perform, is we have a custom to wash our hands before leaving the cemetery. And a very beautiful explanation that I heard for that is that after having this encounter with the ultimate end that every person has, then we have a sense of, and we've heard good things about that person and positive things about that person, so then we need to be energized to make sure that our remaining days, which we hope number in the hundreds of thousands, whatever, but that our remaining days should be utilized and be fulfilling and be meaningful, right? And our hands represents our actions, that which we do, right? So we wash our hands again in that ritual manner, again as in the morning, the 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. We wash our hands, right? It's a new day for us, right? And we want to consecrate, we want to make holy our actions and leaving. So there certainly is that aspect also, and ideally there should be, right?
So it shouldn't be a tameh, it should be...
Well, so there's both.
A
right?
turning point, or
yes, but it's not A or B. There are both aspects. There are both aspects. Okay. Now another approach, I don't know if it's so different, but it plumbs a little bit deeper. Why is there death? From a Jewish point of view, why is there death? Was there always
No.
going to be death?
No.
No.
No. Adam.
Right? In the Garden of Eden, Adam and Chava, Adam and Eve, there was not meant to be death. Why? What changed because of that chait, because of that sin? What changed? So initially there was a complete integration of the body and the soul. They were complete, absolute partners, as we believe in the time of the ultimate reward, which is Tchiyat HaMeitim, when the body and the soul will be reunited. At that point, the body will be purified to the point that it will be together with this soul on this spiritual plane. That's what was meant to be. But once there was this pull towards the wants of the body, that which it saw, that which it sees, that which it tastes, even that which it thinks. So at that point, there was a sullying, a lowering of the body, to the point that it could never, in its present state, have that dveikut, have that clinging, that connection to God. Therefore, there is death, where the soul and body separate for a period of time and the body decomposes in order that it can be rebuilt in a way that it can have that dveikus, that connection, that clinging with God. So therefore, at its very core, what does death represent? What is death a relic of? What is death a result of? Chait.
What's hate?
Sin.
Sin is fake.
So at its very, very core, death is the result of chait. Not that individual's chait, but mankind's path. And therefore it is that encounter with that which caused the separation from God that we strive to reconnect. It is that which causes the separation. That is what causes tum'ah. That is what causes that impurity, that pushing aside. So at its core, this represents chait. And therefore that is, this is almost like traveling back in time to that moment of mankind, that shift of mankind. And that is the tum'ah that is created, that is caused by death.
We mourn the dead, and what we do down on earth, also there's going on, I think, in the upper levels, I think the soul's mourning the body a little bit.
Could be.
But that eternal life is a punishment, not a reward. I mean, can you imagine? There's no end to your living. It's horrible. It's horrible. Plus, when you know that you
physical
physical.
We are looking at it, right, with our very, very limited, stunted physical view, right? And yes, living forever. Well, what's going to happen to Social Security, right? For us, right? And you often hear, speaking to people who are very old,
Yeah, they're tired.
they say, enough.
Enough already.
Enough. So yes, in a physical world, thank you so much, with a physical sense, right? Yes.
I have one.
But we're talking
All right,
over
thank
here.
you, Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
But over here we're talking about a spiritual existence of ever increasing closeness and connection to God, which is something, the Gemara describes it. Tzadikim yoshvim, the righteous are sitting. Va'atroteihem barashehem, with their crowns on their head. And crown on the head represents that we're no longer, dealing with the physicality, but we are, there. V'nehnin, and we are getting this intense pleasure, meziv hashchina, from the glow of God's presence.
That's nice.
What does that mean? I just said the words, I translated them as accurately as I could, but it's hard to really, I mean, I could think of the warmth of basking in the sun, right? And maybe that gives us 1/60th or less of what we're talking about. I don't know, right? But we're not talking about physical pleasures, right? From a Judaic point of view, it's not 70 virgins, right? I was wondering, what did they do wrong, right? But it's nothing physical, right? It's nothing physical, right? Yes,
I'm just thinking of a parable. It's almost if we had to have our great-great-grandparents come back and look at all our generation today staring at these little tiny screens, they'd think we were crazy. And yet every single person is so addicted and we all want to look at it. And maybe that's might be what we're just seeing God. It will be like we're seeing, like knowledge and seeing answers to questions and, just seeing,
It'll be like constantly getting updates.
What's that?
It'll be like constantly getting updates. Oh.
Yeah, well, just knowing and seeing things. So of course that's pleasurable because otherwise we wouldn't all be glued here like this. But and they say that everything is a taste of what it's going to be. So our great grandparents wouldn't even be able to relate to this.
Yeah.
Because maybe a TV and that was like nothing compared to what this is.
Yeah.
But maybe that's what it is. And I was also thinking in terms of, when you say the impurity, but then there are all ways to fix it because you can wash your hands and you can go in the mikveh. Well, a woman can go in the mikveh. And
man too.
I guess there's
a man too. For nowadays, without a Beit HaMikdash, so we don't have that. The need to, the obligation to. Yeah.
Well, but a woman has to go in the mikveh.
Yeah.
So we have ways of fixing. Tikkun olam. We have ways of fixing the sin. So we present it every day with different things that go on in our lives, and we have a choice. That's our choice, whether we're going to fix it or not fix it.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Which gets back to the way that approach on the face of it was presented. It, forgive me, but the description sounds a little bit analogous to what, except for that then they're not the Jesus part. What Christianity would say about original sin. That death goes back to that fate and loss of this unity of the body and soul.
Well, that's clear. If that's what they're saying, then they got that from us, right? Mm-hmm. However, we are not born now, right? We are born to die.
Okay.
We are born to die. Everyone who's born is going to die, right? But that's not something that I now, that I've got this stain on me,
okay,
that now, right? I didn't cause that.
Okay.
Right? That's not a stain on me.
Okay.
Right?
So
the stains on me are any things that I do.
That's
right? On the contrary, right? I am born pure, clear, clean slate. Right? And that's why, very interestingly, right, we have a custom that a Jewish marriage, right, will ask the groom and the bride for a blessing. Right? We also, the groom and the bride, they fast. They fast on that day. Right? We say it's like their Yom Kippur. It's like their Day of Atonement. Right? Why are we going to them for blessings? What made them so holy that all of a sudden they're getting married? where the idea is that now that the souls are fusing into one new entity, it is a rebirth of sorts. Oh, a rebirth? Cleansed, righteous, pure, clean slate. Oh, I'd love to get a bracha from such a person.
So
okay?
That's where it's completely different in
Yes.
that they're not casting this as being born this way.
I was on a plane, I was taking a flight somewhere and sitting next to someone, right? You don't believe in Jesus? Right? Jews don't view that individual as being a savior, certainly not as being a son of God. Right? I believe that such a person existed. I would imagine such a person did exist, right? So he said, so how will you be saved? Right? Which again, I can't speak for all Christianity, all different sects. I don't know, but that was this individual's approach, right? The only way for me to be saved is by connecting myself.
Saved
right?
from what? From the sin?
Don't ask me for the Parish Rashi.
No,
I
did
don't
you
know.
ask him? Saved from what?
Yeah, I don't know, right? The way for me, right, it's not how am I going to be saved, right? Which means I'm drowning, I'm dead unless right? I'm meant to connect to God, right? It's not that I'm out for the count unless I get saved, right? If I cause problems to myself, I've got to work on teshuvah, on repenting, on correcting those things, and living a meaningful life that is connected to God. Now, a kohen, and this ends up being very interesting. I just saw this last night. So the kohen is the one who is meant to connect us down here with God up there. They're meant to be.
Do we need an intermediary?
We don't need an intermediary. There's certain avoda. We need spiritual leaders to help us, right? And we need, certain avoda, certain service that's being done in the Beit HaMikdash, right? Now that we don't have that, so we replace that, right? Now our tefillah, our prayer is in the place of that. Not to say that they were not praying when there was a Beit HaMikdash, right? There was always a mitzvah of prayer, and there's also a mitzvah of service in the Beit HaMikdash. If we don't have the service in the Beit HaMikdash, then the existing mitzvah of prayer now needs to assume the role of prayer and of the avoda. Okay, but that's a misnomer that one often hears, that tefillah was there since we don't have the Beit HaMikdash and the sacrifices, now we have tefillah. Tefillah is an independent mitzvah, independent commandment. So now, Judaism, we have a lot of depth in our understanding of numbers, right? 6 is the mundane, is the regular. 7 is the holiness within the system. 8 is beyond the natural, right? As we mentioned, Brit Milah is on the 8th day. That's taking the physical body and saying, yes, but it's meant to be more than this. The body was created the male body was created in a physically imperfect state, and we need to bring it, to perfect it. And as the Sefer HaChinuch says, we're meant to understand that the same way that we bring the physical body to its proper state, we also then must work on our spiritual selves to make sure that we bring that to its proper, perfected state. And that's why we have, Shabbat, right? Shabbat, okay, so I'm sorry, let me step back a step. Why is 6 the mundane and why is 7 the holiness in the mundane? 6, think of a cube, right? 6 is the 4 directions and up and down, right? That is the world that is around us. that very physical, tangible world that is around us. What is 7 then? 7 is that dot in the middle. It is that central point which demonstrates that all that is going on all about, in all directions, in all forms of this physical material world, there is that source. There is that point from which it emanates. There is that which gives it meaning. There is that which is the essence of it. And don't think that it's just the physicality. Shabbat is that point of focus. We have our 6 days of the week, and then we have that point. And even amongst the holidays, right, we have 6 plus 1. We have the first day of Pesach. I'm talking Torah holidays, not we outside Israel keeping 2 days, right? We have the first day of Pesach and the last day of Pesach. We have 1 day of Shavuot. We have Rosh Hashanah, which is actually 1 day, right? We keep 2 days even in Israel, but actually Rosh Hashanah is the start of the year. That's 1 day. We have the first day of Sukkot, and we have Shmini Atzeret. Okay? And then we have Yom Kippur. Right? Now, on these first 6 days, right, there is a certain amount of malacha that can be done. What sort of malacha, what sort of work, or let's call it creative activity, can be done? How is Yom Tov different than Shabbat? Cooking, right? The ochel nefesh, right? The cooking, right? And then we have Yom Kippur. What is Yom Kippur called? Shabbat, Shabbaton. It's the Shabbat of the Shabbats, right? Amongst these days where we have to refrain, but not fully, comes Yom Kippur as that is the Shabbat, Shabbaton. So again, that is the system of 7. The gematria, the numerical value of, well, what is the gematria, the numerical value of the word kohen? Chaf, Hey, Nun. Chaf is 20, Hey is 5, Nun is 50. What do we have? 75. Right? Because he helps as that midpoint between the 7 and the 8. Between even the holiness within the mundane and that which goes beyond. The 8 is that which is beyond. Right? You asked before, right? So the 7 Noahide mitzvot. Why are there 7 Noahide mitzvot? Because that is more within the system. Right? What are the 7 mitzvot b'nei Noach? The 7 mitzvot for humanity. What are the 7?
System of adjudication.
Okay. One of them is batei din, court systems.
Don't murder.
Okay. Don't murder.
Don't eat live animal limbs or
okay. Ever min achai.
No idolatry.
There is a God.
Well, actually, there are 6 don'ts and 1 do. And we'll see that they're all very much in the system. The way I remember it, it's the big 3. When I say the big 3, those are the 3 things for which a Jew must give up their life and not transgress, which is adultery, right, or any sort of incest, any sort of forbidden intimate relationship, right, murder, and idolatry. Those are the big 3. Then I think of it, Aleph, Bet, Gimel. Okay? Aleph is Aver min achai, that we can't pull off a limb from a live animal, right, and then eat that. Right? The animal, for a non-Jew, doesn't need to be shechted, halachically shechted, but it needs to be first put to death or dead, before it can be eaten. Ever menachai. Bet is birkat Hashem, which is a euphemism, which actually means cursing out God, prohibition against cursing God. Gimel is stealing, prohibition against stealing. And lastly is Aleph Bet Bet Gimel. Bet is Bat Beit Din, right? Setting up a court system. So that is all within, right? Within the system, right? And then we have another 606, 7, 8, right? That take us beyond the confines of those 7. And 7, the process of becoming tahor, purified, after coming in contact with a mate, right, is a 7-day process. And then after that, one enters the 8th, right? Meaning that we need to get ourselves, right, back into that mindset. Just one last point, a beautiful teaching that I saw that I wanted to share with you. Further on page 680, we have the commandment, the very last pasuk there, Lamed Bet. That's Perek Chaf Bet, pasuk Lamed Bet. V'lo techalalu et shem kadshi, do not desecrate my holy name. V'nikdashti betoch b'nei Yisroel. I shall be sanctified among the children of Israel. Ani Hashem mekadishchem. I am Hashem who sanctifies you. And it is from this pasuk that we learn out the idea of, that I just mentioned in passing before, of giving up one's life in order to sanctify God's name, and that is only for those 3 mitzvot that we mentioned before: the idolatry, adultery, and murder. I don't know if the English brings this. Rashi, on the very bottom there, the second column, writes, "K'shumosar atzmo." If a person is giving up their life, yimsor atzmo al menat lamut. One must give up their life, planning, willing, lamut, to die. Shekol hamos atzmo al menat hanes enos lo nes. If I'm doing it in order that a miracle will happen to me, the miracle won't happen. Where do we have that back in Tanakh? Going back to the very beginning, it's not explicit in the Torah. Avraham and
his brother.
Haran, his brother, right? Haran, his brother, was literally sitting on the fence, waiting to see what would happen. Nimrod, the king, is throwing his brother Avram into the furnace for not bowing down to the idol. If Avram lives, I'm with him. If he dies, right, then I'll stay with Nimrod. Avram lived, he said, I'm with him. He was thrown to the furnace, and then he died. Shekhem at Ciner, that we also find that B'Chananya, Mishael, V'Azariah. These was in the time of Nebuchadnezzar, in the time of Daniel. Then Nebuchadnezzar made this massive form idol, and everyone had to bow down to it. They refused to bow down to it. They were thrown into a furnace. Shalom masu atzman almanat hanes. They did not give up their life. They did not give themselves over, counting on, relying on a miracle happened. Shneimar vehein lo yidia luhu lecha malka. Matzil velo matzil. Right? They did not know. They approached Daniel, right? And will be saved, and Daniel wouldn't answer. They didn't know. Yidia lahavi lecha, etc. And a miracle happened for them. And I saw a very, very beautiful, what I thought was a very beautiful construct as to how we understand that, why that works in the way that it does. A person, if I'm doing it in order, if I'm going to be thrown to the furnace because I know God's going to save me, then I'm not truly willing to give up my life. If a person is willing to give up their life rather than do one of these specific transgressions for which and only for which one should give up their life. But a person who's willing to give up their life for their Judaism, again, in those situations where it warrants it, where one is supposed to, what is that person saying? What is that person expressing?
That there's more beyond life.
That he cares more about his soul than the body.
Yeah.
Good, there's more beyond life, right? My connection to God and these mitzvot, which are my means of connecting to God, are more important than anything that this world has to offer. It's more important than life itself. So what is that person in essence doing? They are lifting themselves out and beyond this physical world.
Yeah.
I'm not a part of this world.
No.
I am not a part of this world. This world is not my place. And relinquish it all in order to connect to God. So this world is not my place. The person is lifting themselves up and out of this world. Once that is the case, then the rules, the physics, the workings of this world don't apply to this person anymore. What's physics? Physics is this rule that God put in place in this world, that fire will burn, fire will destroy. At that point, it only makes sense that a nace could or will, depending whatever is the proper thing for that moment, right, will happen. If I'm going in for a miracle to happen, what does that mean? I'm fully here in this world and I'm expecting to be treated in an otherworldly fashion. That is an inherent contradiction. If you're in this world, then you're in this world. And the laws, the processes, the physics of this world are there in play. But once a person is beyond that, then v'nikdashi b'toch b'nei Yisroel, then if it's shelo al manat, not on the condition of a miracle, that's when the miracles will happen. And I'll just conclude that I was speaking this Sunday morning at the J. They had this Jewish learning, so I was part of a panel, right? So one person, it was on a different issue, it was on more of an Israel issue. So one person said, he said, Rabbi, the last mitzvah of the Torah is to write your own Torah. So isn't that clear that the Torah has to keep changing? And I said, how do you understand then the 613 mitzvah? So I said, well, you're misunderstanding, right? It's not to write your own Torah freehand, right? It's to write your own copy of the Torah without deviating a single letter from the Torah that it is. Right? But I said, but to get to the broader point, what is a mitzvah? A mitzvah is how a physical human being can do a physical act here in this physical world and can touch that which is beyond this physical world, can touch the eternity, can touch God, can touch the spirituality. That's what a mitzvah is. And really, with every mitzvah that we do, what it does do, and what we are meant to feel it doing, is that it is bringing us up and out beyond the physics of this world. And in that way, truly every mitzvah that we do is v'nikdashti, that it causes this kedusha, this holiness, this consecration, this separation, this upliftingness. Yes.
I'm not